Late Tuesday night, I heard my daughter Ashley's voice drifting through the thin walls of our two-story house. She was on the phone again, probably with one of her college friends, gossiping about whatever drama filled her social media feeds these days. "Mom's totally right about Dad," Ashley whispered, but not quietly enough. "He's such a joke. She deserves someone who actually gets her, not some grease monkey who spends all night under cars." I froze in the hallway, still wearing my work coveralls from the auto repair shop I'd built from nothing over the past 15 years. The wrench in my hand suddenly felt heavier than it should have. "I mean, seriously," Ashley continued, "Mom's got style, ambition, you know? Dad's just stuck. Like, forever stuck in this crappy town fixing other people's broken junk. If I had $1 for every time someone underestimated me, I could buy out this whole pathetic mill town. But tonight, something felt different. Tonight, I was taking notes. I backed away from Ashley's door, my work boots silent on the worn carpet. Downstairs, I could hear my wife Jennifer moving around the kitchen, probably preparing her usual evening routine of ignoring me while scrolling through her phone. The house we'd bought 12 years ago had seen better days. The paint was peeling on the shutters, the front steps creaked, and Mrs. Patterson next door always seemed to be watching from her window whenever Jennifer came home late from her job at the law firm. I walked into the kitchen where Jennifer sat at our small table, her laptop open, fingers dancing across the keyboard. She didn't look up when I entered. "Long day at the shop," I said, testing the waters. She responded without lifting her eyes from the screen. Jennifer had always been the ambitious one. While I was building my business from the ground up, she'd worked her way up to senior legal assistant at Morrison & Associates. Somewhere along the way, she'd started dressing better, talking differently, hanging out with a crowd that made me feel like I was wearing the wrong clothes to every gathering. "Ashley's upstairs," I mentioned. "I know where our daughter is, Jake." Her tone carried that familiar edge of irritation. Some of us pay attention. I opened the refrigerator, grabbed a beer, and studied my wife's profile. When had she started wearing her hair differently? When had she started staying late at the office 3 nights a week? When had she stopped laughing at my jokes? "Jennifer," I started, but she cut me off. "I'm working on something important here. Can we talk later?" Later never came anymore. Later had become code for never in our house. I took my beer and headed to the garage, my sanctuary filled with tools, spare parts, and the smell of motor oil. This was where I made sense of things, where problems had solutions, and hard work actually meant something. But tonight, the familiar comfort felt hollow. Ashley's words echoed in my head, mixing with Jennifer's cold dismissal and the growing list of small changes I'd been trying to ignore. The credit card bills with charges I didn't recognize, the new clothes Jennifer bought but never wore around me, the way she smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our shared calendar. Jennifer had marked late meeting Morrison case for tomorrow night. The same notation appeared twice last week. Something cold settled in my stomach. Not panic, not rage, something calculating and patient. I finished my beer and walked back into the house. Jennifer was still at the kitchen table, but now she was texting someone, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Who's that?" I asked casually. She looked up, startled, and quickly closed the phone. "Just work stuff." "At 11 p.m.? You know how demanding Mr. Morrison can be." She stood up, gathering her laptop. "I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late." She kissed my cheek, a quick, obligatory peck, and headed upstairs. I listened to her footsteps, the sound of our bedroom door closing, then silence. I sat down at the kitchen table where she'd been working. The surface was clean except for a small piece of paper that had fallen beside her chair. I picked it up. It was a receipt from the Riverside Inn, dated 3 days ago. Lunch for 2, $47.83. I'd been working at the shop that day, and Jennifer had said she was having a salad at her desk. The Riverside Inn was on the other side of town, the kind of place people went when they wanted privacy, the kind of place married people went when they weren't with their spouses. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I folded the receipt and put it in my wallet. Then I went upstairs, brushed my teeth, and got into bed beside my wife, who was already pretending to sleep. But I wasn't sleeping. I was thinking about patterns, about all the small lies that suddenly seemed much bigger, about the way Ashley talked like Jennifer had been confiding in her. I was thinking about my best friend Danny, who'd been coming around more often lately, always with some excuse about needing to borrow tools or wanting to grab a beer. Danny, who ran the used car lot downtown and had always been a little too charming for his own good. Danny, who'd asked a lot of questions about Jennifer lately. How was she doing? Was she happy? Did she ever talk about feeling trapped? I stared at the ceiling and listened to Jennifer's breathing. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle echoed across the empty factories and abandoned lots that marked the edges of our fading town. Tomorrow, I decided, I was going to start paying closer attention. Tomorrow, I was going to find out exactly what kind of game everyone was playing, and maybe, just maybe, I was going to change the rules. The digital clock beside the bed glowed 11:47 p.m. Jennifer shifted beside me, and I heard her phone buzz softly under her pillow. She thought I was asleep. She thought I was just another piece of furniture in her carefully constructed life. She was about to learn how wrong she could be. The next morning started like any other, except now I was watching everything through different eyes. Jennifer came downstairs dressed in a sharp black blazer I'd never seen before, her makeup more carefully applied than usual. "Big day at the office?" I asked, pouring coffee into my travel mug. "Morrison's got a new case. Might need to work late again tonight." She didn't meet my eyes as she grabbed her purse. "That's 3 nights this week. That's what pays for Ashley's college tuition." Her voice carried a defensive edge. "Some of us can't just clock out at 5. I let that slide. For now. After Jennifer left, I called my shop and told my assistant Tommy I'd be in late. Then I did something I'd never done before. I followed my wife to work. The Morrison & Associates building was downtown, a restored brick structure that tried hard to look more prestigious than it was. I parked across the street and watched Jennifer walk inside, her heels clicking on the sidewalk with confident precision. At 12:30, she emerged with someone I recognized, Danny Martinez, my childhood friend and current owner of Danny's used cars. They walked together toward Danny's silver BMW, laughing about something. They drove to the Riverside Inn. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, processing what I'd just witnessed. Then I drove to Danny's car lot. "Jake?" Danny's salesman's smile was extra bright when he saw me. "What brings you by, buddy?" "Looking for Jennifer. She left her phone charger in my truck this morning." Danny's smile flickered for just a second. "Jennifer? Why would she be here?" "Thought maybe she stopped by on her lunch break. You know how she likes to check up on everyone." "Nah, man, haven't seen her today. But hey, since you're here, want to grab a beer after work?" "Can't tonight. Jennifer's working late again." Something shifted in Danny's expression. Guilt, maybe, or calculation. "Yeah, she mentioned that. This Morrison case is really keeping her busy." She'd mentioned it to him. When? How often were they talking? I left Danny's lot and drove back to my shop, my mind racing. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't ignore. That evening, Jennifer came home at 9:15 p.m., claiming she'd grabbed dinner at the office. But when I hugged her, she smelled like Danny's cologne, the same expensive stuff he'd been wearing since high school. "How was your day?" she asked, settling onto the couch with her laptop. "Quiet. Fixed Mrs. Henderson's transmission, worked on the Petersons' truck. Nothing exciting." She was already absorbed in her screen. I went upstairs to check on Ashley, who was in her room editing some video for her social media accounts. "Hey, kiddo, how was school?" "Fine." She didn't look up from her phone. "Mom says you might be getting a new job soon." I sat down on the edge of her bed. "Mom said what?" "She said things might be changing around here, that maybe it was time for everyone to figure out what they really wanted." "When did she say that?" Ashley finally looked at me, and I saw something like pity in her eyes. "Dad, come on. You have to know that Mom's not happy, right? Like she's been talking about it for months." "Talking to who?" "To me. To her friends. To—" Ashley stopped, realizing she'd said too much. "To who else, Ashley?" "Just people." "Dad, I don't want to get in the middle of this." But she already was in the middle. They all were. I kissed Ashley's forehead and went back downstairs. Jennifer was still on the couch, but now she was texting someone, that same small smile from the night before playing across her face. "Work emergency?" I asked. "Something like that." She closed the phone quickly. "I'm going to take a shower." While the water ran upstairs, I did something that went against every principle I'd ever held about marriage and trust. I picked up Jennifer's laptop. She'd left her email open. The most recent message was from Danny, sent 20 minutes ago. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. We need to talk about the Jake situation." The Jake situation. I was a situation now. I scrolled through more messages, my hands shaking slightly. 3 months of correspondence, starting professional and friendly, gradually becoming more intimate, more conspiratorial. "Jake's been suspicious lately," Jennifer had written 2 weeks ago. "We need to be more careful." "Maybe it's time to tell him," Danny had replied. "He deserves to know the truth." "Not yet. I need to figure out the financial stuff first, and Ashley's college. I can help with all of that. You know I can." I closed the laptop and sat back, my mind reeling. This wasn't just an affair. They were planning something bigger. They were planning my replacement. The shower stopped running upstairs. I heard Jennifer moving around the bedroom, getting ready for bed. I went to the kitchen and opened another beer, trying to process what I'd learned. My wife and my best friend weren't just betraying me. They were treating me like an obstacle to be managed, a problem to be solved. Ashley knew. She'd been watching this unfold for months, watching her father become irrelevant in his own life. The front door opened, and my younger brother Mike walked in. He had a key for emergencies, but lately he'd been using it more casually. "Hey, Jake, Jennifer around?" "Upstairs. Why?" "Just wanted to return that book she lent me." Mike held up a paperback romance novel. "She said it might help me understand women better." When had Jennifer started giving relationship advice to my brother? When had Mike started taking it? "She's getting ready for bed," I said. "Maybe tomorrow." Mike nodded, but he seemed nervous about something. "Everything okay with you two?" "Why do you ask?" "No reason. Just, if you ever need to talk about anything, I'm here." Another person who knew more about my life than I did. After Mike left, I sat in the dark kitchen, drinking my beer and thinking about revenge. Not the hot, angry kind that leads to broken furniture and restraining orders. The cold, calculated kind that changes everything. Jennifer came downstairs in her robe, looking surprised to see me still awake. "Couldn't sleep," I explained. "Maybe you should try those meditation apps I told you about." She opened the refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of water. "They really help with stress." "I'm not stressed." "Jake." She turned to face me, and for a moment I saw something like genuine concern in her expression. "I know things have been difficult between us lately." "Have they?" "We both know they have. Maybe we should think about counseling, or other options." "Other options, like divorce, like splitting up our assets so she could start fresh with Danny." "What kind of other options?" "I don't know. I just think we both deserve to be happy. I am happy, I lied. She studied my face in the dim light from the refrigerator. Are you really? Are you? She didn't answer right away. I'm trying to be. After she went back upstairs, I sat in the darkness for another hour, planning. They wanted to treat me like a fool? Fine. They wanted to manage me like a problem? Perfect. Let them think they were in control. Let them think I was too stupid, too trusting, too stuck in my small-town life to see what was happening right in front of me. Tomorrow I was going to start playing a different game entirely. I woke up at 5 a.m., an hour before my usual time, with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Jennifer was still asleep beside me, her phone charging on the nightstand just inches from my hand. While she slept, I carefully picked up her phone and scrolled through her recent messages. More exchanges with Danny, including photos of houses for sale in the next county over. Perfect for a fresh start, he'd written. They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to leave town entirely. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it and went downstairs to make coffee. By the time Jennifer came down, I was reading the newspaper like any other morning. You're up early, she observed, pouring herself coffee. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what you said last night. About being happy. She paused, cup halfway to her lips. Oh? Maybe you're right. Maybe we both need to figure out what we really want. Jake. She set down her coffee and looked at me carefully. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time I stopped taking things for granted, started paying attention to what's really important. Relief flickered across her face. She thought I was giving her permission to leave. I think that's very mature of you, she said. I've been thinking about making some changes at the shop, too. Maybe expanding, taking on more clients. Danny mentioned he might have some connections that could help. Jennifer's relief turned to something sharper. You talked to Danny about the shop? Yesterday. He stopped by, said he had some ideas about growing the business. Good friend, that Danny, always looking out for me. I watched her process this, trying to figure out if I knew more than I was letting on. What kind of ideas? She asked carefully. Oh, you know Danny. Big dreams, big plans. He thinks I'm not living up to my potential. Maybe he's right. Maybe he is. I finished my coffee and kissed her cheek before heading to work. Have a good day, honey. Try not to work too late. At the shop, I called my lawyer, not Morrison, obviously, but Jim Patterson, who'd helped me set up the business years ago. Jim, I need to ask you about protecting assets, hypothetically. What kind of hypothetical situation are we talking about? The kind where someone might try to take half of everything I've built. Jim was quiet for a moment. Jake, is everything okay at home? Let's just say I'm planning for various possibilities. We talked for an hour about business structures, joint accounts, and the importance of documentation. By the time I hung up, I had a clear understanding of how vulnerable I really was, and how to change that. Next, I called my accountant and scheduled a meeting to discuss restructuring for tax purposes. Then, I called my insurance agent to review my coverage. Everyone was happy to help. Everyone loved a client who was suddenly interested in planning for the future. That afternoon, Danny showed up at the shop. Jake, how's it going, buddy? Great, actually. Been thinking about what we talked about yesterday. Danny looked confused. What we talked about? About expanding the business. About not living up to my potential. Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. You've got so much more to offer than just fixing cars. That's what Jennifer keeps telling me. She says I need to think bigger. Jennifer's a smart woman. She is. Sometimes I think she's too smart for me. Danny shifted uncomfortably. Don't sell yourself short, man. I don't know. Lately, I feel like everyone's moving forward except me. You've got your car lot doing great. Jennifer's climbing the ladder at Morrison's. Even Ashley's got her whole social media thing figured out. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time I stopped being the guy who just fixes other people's problems and started being the guy who solves his own. That evening, Jennifer worked late again. While she was gone, I installed new security software on our home computer, the kind that tracks all activity, backs up all files, and runs invisibly in the background. I also set up a new email account and started documenting everything. Screenshots of Jennifer's messages, photos of receipts, a timeline of suspicious behavior. When Jennifer came home at 10 p.m., I was watching television in the living room. "How was your day?" she asked, settling beside me on the couch. "Productive. Made some calls about expanding the shop. Jim Patterson thinks I should consider incorporating, maybe bringing in a partner." "A partner?" "Someone with business experience, someone who understands marketing, customer relations, that sort of thing." Jennifer was trying to read my expression. "Anyone in mind?" "Well, Danny's got experience running a business, and he knows cars. Might be a good fit." "You want to go into business with Danny?" "Why not? He's my best friend, right? If you can't trust your best friend, who can you trust?" Jennifer excused herself early, claiming exhaustion, but I could hear her on the phone in our bedroom, speaking in low, urgent tones. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Jay." Instead of going to the shop, I drove to the Riverside Inn and rented a room across the parking lot. At 12:30, Danny's BMW pulled in, followed 5 minutes later by Jennifer's Honda. I watched them meet in the parking lot, watched Danny put his hand on the small of Jennifer's back as they walked toward the hotel entrance, watched them disappear into room 237. They stayed for 2 hours. When they came out, Jennifer looked different, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. Danny was grinning like he'd won the lottery. They kissed goodbye beside Jennifer's car. Not a friendly peck, but a real kiss, the kind that promised more later. I took photos of everything. That evening, Jennifer came home with takeout from my favorite restaurant. "Thought we could have dinner together," she said, unpacking containers of Chinese food. "We haven't done that in a while." "This is nice," I agreed, accepting the peace offering. "Jake, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, about making changes." "Oh? Maybe we should see a counselor, someone who could help us figure out what we both want." "You think we need professional help?" "I think we need clarity, for both our sakes." I nodded thoughtfully. "You might be right. It would be good to have everything out in the open." "Exactly. No secrets, no assumptions, just honest conversation about where we go from here." "I'm all for honesty," I said. After dinner, Jennifer went upstairs to take a bath. While the water was running, I uploaded the day's photos to my secure email account and added them to my growing file. Tomorrow, I decided, it was time to let Danny know that his best friend was paying attention. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. The next morning, I called Danny and suggested we grab lunch. "Got some business ideas I want to run by you," I told him. We met at Mickey's Diner, a greasy spoon downtown where half the town conducted their unofficial business. Danny seemed nervous, checking his phone every few minutes. "So what's this big business idea?" he asked, picking at his burger. "I've been thinking about what you said, about not living up to my potential." "Right, yeah. You've got a lot more to offer than just the repair shop." "The thing is, Danny, I've been wondering why you're so interested in my potential all of a sudden." Danny's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we've been friends for 20 years, and you've never once suggested I expand the business. Now suddenly you're full of advice about my future. I just want to see you succeed, man. Or maybe you want to see me distracted." The color drained from Danny's face. "Jake, I don't know what you're getting at." I pulled out my phone and showed him one of yesterday's photos, him and Jennifer kissing in the parking lot of the Riverside Inn. "I'm getting at this." Danny stared at the photo, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "How long?" I asked calmly. "Jake, listen, it's not what you think." It's exactly what I think. How long? Danny slumped in his seat. 3 months. But Jake, we never meant for this to happen. It just did. Nothing just happens, Danny. People make choices. You're right. I made a terrible choice. We both did. But Jake, you have to understand. Jennifer's been unhappy for a long time. So you thought you'd help her out? I don't know what I thought. I was stupid. I leaned forward. You were stupid, Danny, but not in the way you think. What do you mean? I mean you thought I was too dumb to notice. You thought you could plan my whole future behind my back and I'd just go along with it. Danny's eyes widened. You know about the house? I didn't know about any house, but now I did. Tell me about the house, Danny. Jennifer didn't want you to know until we figured out how to handle everything. She was going to talk to you about a trial separation, maybe counseling. While she moved in with you. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Danny looked around the diner, realizing that several people were watching our conversation with interest. In a town this size, gossip traveled faster than the internet. Can we go somewhere private? He asked. No, Danny. We can't, because privacy is what got us into this mess in the first place. I stood up, threw a 20 on the table, and looked down at my former best friend. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop seeing my wife. You're going to stop texting her, calling her, and planning her future. And if I find out you've contacted her again, I'm going to make sure this whole town knows exactly what kind of friend you really are. Jake, please. We're done here. I walked out of Mickey's diner knowing that by evening, half the town would be talking about the confrontation. Danny would have to choose between his reputation and his affair. I was betting he'd choose his reputation. That afternoon, I drove to Morrison & Associates and asked to speak with Jennifer privately. The receptionist led me to a small conference room where Jennifer was waiting, looking pale and shaken. Danny called you, I said. Jake, we need to talk. Yes, we do, but not here. Then where? At home, tonight, after Ashley goes to her friend's house. Jennifer nodded, understanding that this was the conversation we'd both been avoiding. Are you going to make this difficult? She asked. That depends on what you mean by difficult. That evening, Ashley conveniently had plans to sleep over at her friend Madison's house. I suspected Jennifer had arranged this, wanting privacy for whatever conversation she'd been planning. We sat in our living room like strangers, Jennifer on one end of the couch, me in my old recliner. How long have you known? She asked. Long enough. The question is, what do we do about it? I want a divorce, Jake. I figured. What I want to know is why you didn't just ask for one instead of sneaking around for 3 months. Jennifer looked down at her hands. Because I was scared. Of what? Of hurting you. Of disrupting Ashley's life. Of starting over at 42. So, you thought an affair would be easier? I don't know what I thought. I was lonely, Jake. We haven't been happy in years. You haven't been happy? I was doing fine. Were you really? Or were you just going through the motions? I considered this. Maybe both. Danny makes me feel alive again, like I'm worth something. And I don't? Not anymore. I'm sorry, but no. The honesty was brutal, but at least it was honest. So what's the plan? I asked. You move in with Danny, we split everything 50-50, Ashley chooses which parent to live with? Something like that. And the house you two have been looking at? The fresh start in the next county? Jennifer's eyes widened. How did you... I know a lot of things, Jennifer. The question is whether we handle this like adults or whether it gets messy. I don't want it to be messy. Then here's what's going to happen. You're going to move out this weekend. You can stay with your sister until you figure out your permanent situation. Jake, I'm not finished. You're going to tell Ashley yourself, tonight, when she gets home tomorrow. You're going to explain that this was your choice, your decision, and that I tried to work things out. That's not fair. Fair? You've been lying to me for 3 months, planning my future behind my back, and now you're worried about fair? Jennifer was crying now, but I felt nothing. The hurt had burned away, leaving only cold calculation. What about the house, the shop, Ashley's college fund? We'll work out the details through lawyers. But Jennifer, if you try to take more than you're entitled to, if you try to turn Ashley against me, if you make this any more humiliating than it already is, I will make sure everyone in this town knows exactly how this marriage ended. You're threatening me? I'm promising you. Handle this with dignity, and I'll do the same. Make it ugly, and I'll show you just how ugly it can get. Jennifer left that night, claiming she needed space to think. She didn't come back. The next evening, Ashley came home to find me sitting alone in the kitchen. Where's Mom? Sit down, sweetheart. We need to talk. I told her everything, the affair, the divorce, the fact that her mother had chosen to start a new life with someone else. Ashley cried, raged, and finally asked the question I'd been dreading. Did you know? Before yesterday, did you know? I suspected. Why didn't you fight for her? Because you can't fight for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. So you're just giving up? I'm accepting reality. Your mother made her choice. Now we make ours. What choice? Whether we let this destroy us or whether we build something better. Ashley was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, I want to stay with you. Even though your mother can probably give you a better life? You're my dad. This is my home. It might not be much of a home for a while. Then we'll make it better. That night, after Ashley went to bed, I sat in my kitchen and made a list of everything I needed to do. Lawyer, accountant, custody arrangements, property division. But first, I had a promise to keep to Danny. Tomorrow, this town was going to learn exactly what kind of man Danny Martinez really was. I woke up Saturday morning with the kind of clarity that comes after a storm passes. Jennifer's absence felt less like a loss and more like the removal of a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. Ashley was already downstairs, making pancakes with more determination than skill. Thought we could use some comfort food, she said, flipping a slightly burnt pancake. Thanks, kiddo. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. I called Mom this morning. I paused, coffee cup halfway to my lips. How did that go? She tried to explain about finding herself and needing to be happy. I told her I understood, but that actions have consequences. That's very mature of you. I also told her that if she thought I was going to play happy family with Danny, she was wrong. I studied my daughter's face, seeing something new there, a hardness that reminded me of myself. Ashley, I don't want you to be angry at your mother forever. I'm not angry, Dad. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. After breakfast, I drove to Danny's car lot. It was Saturday, his busiest day, with families browsing the used cars and Danny working his charm on potential buyers. I parked across the street and waited. At noon, Danny stepped outside to take a phone call. I walked over. Jake? His voice was too loud, too cheerful. How's it going, buddy? We need to finish our conversation from yesterday. Listen, about that. Did you stop seeing my wife? Danny glanced around, aware that customers and employees were within earshot. Can we talk about this somewhere else? Answer the question, Danny. She's not your wife anymore, Jake. She moved out. Because you convinced her to. I didn't convince her of anything. She made her own choice. Her own choice to betray her family. That's not how she sees it. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only Danny could hear. Here's how I see it. You destroyed a 20-year friendship and broke up a family because you couldn't keep your hands off another man's wife. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And now everyone's going to know it. Danny's face went pale. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos again, him and Jennifer at the hotel, kissing goodbye, walking hand in hand. I'm talking about these, and the emails you two have been exchanging, and the house you've been looking at together. You can't. I can do whatever I want, Danny. You made sure of that when you decided to destroy my marriage. Jake, please, think about what you're doing. This will hurt Jennifer too. Jennifer made her choice. Now she can live with the consequences. I walked away, leaving Danny standing in his car lot, surrounded by customers who were starting to notice that something was wrong. That afternoon, I drove to the local newspaper office. The weekly paper was run by Martha Henderson, a woman who'd been documenting small-town drama for 30 years. Jake Patterson, I heard about you and Jennifer. I'm so sorry, honey. News traveled fast in a small town. Actually, Martha, that's why I'm here. I want to make sure people get the real story. I showed Martha the photos and explained the timeline. She listened with the focused attention of someone who recognized a story when she heard one. You want me to publish this? I want people to know the truth. Jennifer's been telling everyone we grew apart, that it was mutual. But the truth is, she was having an affair with my best friend while planning to leave town with half of everything I've worked for. Jake, are you sure about this? Once it's in print, you can't take it back. I'm sure. The story ran in Wednesday's paper under the headline, Local Business Owner Betrayed by Wife and Best Friend. Martha had been tactful but thorough, laying out the facts without editorial comment. By Thursday morning, my phone was ringing constantly. Some callers offered support, others wanted gossip, a few expressed outrage on my behalf. Danny's car lot was noticeably quieter. In a town where reputation mattered, being labeled a homewrecker was bad for business. Jennifer called me Friday afternoon. How could you do this to me? She demanded. I told you what would happen if you made this ugly. I moved out. I didn't fight you on anything. You spent 3 months lying to me, planning my future behind my back, and turning my daughter against me. You made it ugly the moment you started sneaking around. I never turned Ashley against you. You told her I was a joke, that I was stuck, that you deserved better. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. She told you that? She tells me everything now. Funny how that works. Jake, I'm sorry I handled this badly. Yes, you did. Can we start over? Handle the divorce like adults? We're past that, Jennifer. You made your choice, I made mine. What about Ashley? She won't even take my calls. That's between you and her. She's my daughter too. Then act like it. Stop trying to justify what you did and start trying to earn her forgiveness. I hung up and went back to work. The shop had been busier than usual. Apparently, being the wronged party in a public scandal was good for business. That evening, Ashley and I ordered pizza and watched a movie, something we hadn't done in months. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? I mean, really happy? Or are you just pretending for my sake? I thought about it. I'm not happy about how things ended, but I'm relieved that they ended. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. I feel the same way. You know your mother loves you, right? Whatever happened between us doesn't change that. I know. But love isn't enough sometimes, is it? No, sweetheart. Sometimes it's not. The next week, Jennifer's lawyer called mine to discuss settlement terms. Apparently, she was no longer interested in fighting for half of everything. The public embarrassment had cost her the job at Morrison & Associates, and Danny's business was struggling enough that he couldn't support 2 households. We worked out a fair division of assets, joint custody of Ashley, though she chose to live with me, and a promise to keep future disagreements private. 6 months later, Jennifer moved to another state with a new job and a fresh start. Danny sold his car lot and moved away too, unable to rebuild his reputation in a town where everyone knew his story. Ashley and I settled into a new routine. The house felt different, smaller but warmer, quieter but more peaceful. One evening, as we sat on the front porch watching the sunset, Ashley said, "You know what I learned from all this?" "What's that?" "That sometimes the people who seem the strongest are actually the most dangerous when they finally decide to fight back." I looked at my daughter, surprised by her insight. "Is that what I did? Fought back?" "You did more than that, Dad. You won." As the sun disappeared behind the abandoned factories that marked the edge of our small town, I realized she was right. I had won. Not because I'd destroyed Jennifer and Danny's reputations, but because I'd refused to be the victim of their choices. I'd taken control of my own story, and that, I thought, was the most important victory of all. The streetlights flickered on, casting long shadows across our quiet neighborhood. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to prove that sometimes the underestimated man is the most dangerous one of all. But tonight, sitting with my daughter on the porch of the house I'd fought to keep, I was exactly where I belonged.